Hi, folks. Today's the day that the core set 2020 has been released. It's the newest Magic the Gathering set. You can play it right away on Magic the Gathering Arena. There will be events all over the country for it because I think it's released in the actual card set as well. But I thought we'd go ahead and bought a couple packs and we'll open them up and see what comes out of it. If you are interested in looking at what this set has, there's a good page, kind of a Wikipedia style thing that I'll link in the description below that you can go to. It has a great listing of what the cards are, what category they fit into, what the game mechanics are going to be for this set. There's a couple notable ones. We probably won't discuss them much here. But I'll let you know what I'll be looking for in this set. So this set is a continuation of the themes that you've seen in the previous sets, and that the same color groups that do the same types of things, just new mechanics to play with. So there are a couple of new archetypes that you'll be able to build a deck around, and the one specifically that I'm looking for are the elementals, which I think is going to be a really fun deck to build, but it's going to require quite a bit. So there's a lot of cool mechanics. I figured just buy up a bunch of packs and we'll open them on the camera and see what we get out of it. So if we get started right away, first pack. Okay, some flying stuff. The rare is a Temple of Mystery. Okay, so this is one of the new lands. It's kind of interesting. It comes out already. So it's another play on the dual land, what do you call it? Just the dual land spacing. Anyway, so enter this battlefield tapped. That's pretty familiar, except for when these enter the battlefield, they scry. So these, you don't get the land that first turn, but you do get the two colors, which is important if you have other types of lands that require you to have one or the other. Otherwise, it comes in tap. So that's a big deal. And then you get to scry. So you turn one, you essentially get to choose or have an idea of what your turn 2 draw will be, or at any point in the game when you play this down, although this is kind of a pretty ideal turn 1 play, especially if you don't have any sort of first turn drop, which I think there's a couple of them. I mean, here's one. So it's an immediate 3 life gain. Elemental, 1/2, so it's pretty good for a turn 1, especially against most really aggressive decks that will probably have a turn 1 drop. This will let you kind of wither some of that storm, but this is probably better later on, and it's just a cheap blocker. So let's go with the next one. We've got 30 to do, so I don't know. We'll sit and discuss every single set, but I'll let you know if I see anything that's of interest to me. That's kind of a freaky looking guy. So the rare here is Leyline. Oh, okay. So again, here we go. This is another new, but I believe that these were in a previous set, the idea of this. So these are expensive cards at 4 mana. So it's kind of risky to run them in your deck, but there's a payoff if you can end with them in your opening hand. And this is really, really key because there's a new mulligan mechanic in the game in which when you mulligan, it's called the London Mulligan. So normally, before this set, when you mulligan, you discard your hand, you draw a new hand, but you draw 1 less card. So if it's your first mulligan, you draw 6. If it's your second mulligan, you draw 5. For the London Mulligan, you discard your hand and you draw 7 cards. And if it's your first mulligan, you need to put 1 at the bottom of your deck. If it's your second mulligan, 2. So essentially you get to pick your opening hand if you mulligan. So it's not as punishing because you get some say in what your hand will be, but it's punishing enough because you play now with fewer cards in your hand. So these ley lines, you can play immediately if you start with it in your hand. And you can see the power of this, and especially how it just shuts down certain decks. A lot of the previous meta was decks that bring creatures back from the graveyard again and again and again. Think of like Sorin, the Planeswalker. You can spend his loyalty to bring back any creature of a certain cost. There's a couple of black cards that do the same thing. So this essentially exiles them instead of putting them in the graveyard. And then if you play this further with the black-white I forget the planeswalker's name, but there's a planeswalker who essentially makes the opponent take damage when there's a certain number of creatures in exile as opposed to in their graveyard. So this, if you can play this, it's great. Is it worth 4? It could be, depending on what your hand is at the time. So this is probably a pretty good thing to run if you're playing that style of deck. All right, so we're only 2 in. We got a long way to go. Duress, everything looks the same. Disfigures, just a -2/-2. It's a pretty good thing. Okay, so Elemental Shaman. This is actually one of the ones that I was kind of looking for. So he's a 2-drop, 1/2 haste. There's nothing that special about that. But when he attacks, you essentially can bring back elementals from your graveyard and return them to the battlefield attacking. You only get the 1 turn with it, but you can continually bring back elementals again and again and again. And if the elemental has a when it enters the battlefield, you get that effect too. So that 3 life, 1 green mana card will suddenly now you get 3 life every time this guy attacks. So it can be pretty powerful. You're going to have to find a way of keeping him alive. He might slot well into that red-white archetype where you've kind of got some spells that boost them that you can use if needed. You've seen me play with that in the past. All right, so far so good actually. I'm really happy with some of these rares. I haven't seen any, yeah, we got this the last time. The blue is going to be built around flying. You can see that here. Flash, that's a pretty typical thing. Here's another one of those lands. So nothing here that I'm really all that interested in. Shock, everybody knows Shock. Giant Horned Buccaneer. Ooh, a Minotaur Pirate. Whenever you discard a card, he deals 1 damage to each opponent. Discard a card. Draw a card. That's interesting. There's a... It's not Nev Mizzet. There's like a red 4-cost card that essentially when he attacks you can discard your hand and draw as many cards as you discarded. So if you pair that with this, I could see that being really, really nasty because that's, you know, if you have 4 cards in your hand, that's 4 damage each time this guy attacks, plus whatever damage you manage to do. And he's got haste. And you can do this again and again and again. If you've got the mana, you can do this 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. You just have to have the mana on the field to do it. Cool. All right. It's an interesting rare. Okay, we got another elemental. It's kind of cool. Legion's End. Exile target creature an opponent controls with a converted mana cost of 2 or less, and all other creatures that opponent controls with the same name. Then the player reveals their hand, exiles all cards with that name from their hand. Okay. It's interesting. I mean, it is. It's powerful against, almost like the name implies, the Legion, right? Those white, red creatures that are 1-cost, 2-cost creatures. There's some pretty beefy ones. I don't know that I will ever run this, but I could see this being used. I'll have to see how other people use it. I don't particularly know whether I would stock that in a deck because it's kind of risky, right? A 2-card or less, I mean, there's a lot of cards that I could see that being good to get rid of, but I don't know if it's worth running over a cast down, which can destroy a creature of any power and any mana cost as long as it's not legendary. So I'll wait and see what people do with that one. I don't know how good that one actually is. Okay, here's another ley line. So it's in your opening hand. Whenever you and or at least 1 permanent you control becomes the target of a spell or an ability an opponent controls, it deals 2 damage to that player. That's pretty good. I mean, right off the bat, it makes any spell that they're going to play, especially if they're a red deck with a lot of dark damage or a blue deck or anything that would target you 2 damage, it makes it that much more expensive for them. That's kind of interesting. I do think that these ley lines, you'll see a lot of play with these ley lines. It's worth running at least 1. If you get it in your opening hand, great. It puts you on a great start. Plus, you've got the London Mulligan. So it's definitely something to think about. Yeah, land draw. I don't know that this guy's really worth playing. He's a 3/2, so I guess he's kind of powerful, but you can tap 3 and sacrifice a locket and draw 3 cards or 2 cards or whatever it is. So I don't know that I'd really want him. Plus, you have to have the mana if you're going to sacrifice him when you're blocking. Okay, so this is kind of an interesting card. Bag of Holding is a call out or shout out to D&D. There's an item in D&D called Bag of Holding, and this card was specifically for that purpose. It's interesting. Here you go. Draw a card, discard a card. So this plays well with that red rare that we just drew. He's a cheaper draw discard because you don't have to be attacking with him, but you can only play it once. So there's that. Whenever you discard a card, exile that card from your graveyard. Wow. And then wow, this is actually an interesting card. I might look into running that red deck. That's just discard your cards, draw cards, so you can cycle through the cards that you want and then return them all to your hand. But if you're returning a bunch of them at the end of your turn, you have to discard down to 7. So if you've got the card, that Minotaur Pirate down, where they take damage every time you discard a card, if you've discarded 10 cards and you return them all to your hand, you have to discard 3 more. So that's 13 damage in one turn. It's a very interesting concept. I don't know if it'll work out. Seems a little specific. There's a lot of other things to answer. Oh, okay, cool. So we've got a mythic rare, Yurik the Desecrated. I believe Yurik has been in the sets previously. I don't know that he ever saw any play really all that much. I think he was like a 9/2 for 4. Pretty good card, but easy to just send a chump block off, and get rid of him. So if a permanent entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. Wow. So this is going to see play, I'll bet you a lot actually, because the Deathlink, Lifelink is good right off the bat, right? Anything that blocks him, anything that he blocks dies, and you get life back for it. He's not particularly strong. I think he's going to be more of a blocker than he will be aggressive, are my thoughts. But that double trigger is actually pretty handy. And he looks like he'll slot into an elemental deck, right? Because he's multicolor, which is the elemental type of theme. We got an octopus. Octopuses are always fun. All right. So this will slot well into the green-white archetype, where you've got a lot of tokens, so his power will be really high. He's cheap. He's a very cheap blocker. Right off the bat, if you can get him down on turn 3, you've got that's going to be hard to overcome. I can think of a couple cards that are 0/3s for 2, and even those are kind of a pain to get around, so he definitely will be. This I'm going to play with. I have a deck. It's a blue-black, but I play Karn in it, and Karn's ability allows you to, for 2 loyalty, summon a artifact creature, and for every other artifact that's on the board, they get +1/+1. So this is essentially, with him on the board, they come out as 2/2s, and then you can make them 3/3s right off the bat. So this is, I think this will be fun in that type of a deck. I don't know that I will use my wild cards to get more of these. I think that would just be kind of a fun slot 2 of them in that deck and see how it plays. Chandra's Regulator. The only thing I think to mention about this is the set is built around Chandra. She is the face of it, as you can clearly see. I think there's 3 or 4 Planeswalker cards for Chandra in this that are essentially from start to finish of her ascendancy, I guess. I don't really care. I don't play much red, or at least mono red. So we've got an artifact creature, add 1 mana. Field of the Dead. Field of the Dead enters the battlefield tapped. Whenever Field of the Dead or another land enters the battlefield under your control, if you control 7 or more lands with different names, create a black zombie creature token. A high risk, high reward. It's potentially a 2/2 every single turn, but only after you control 7 lands. So you would need, this isn't going to kick in until turn 7, and I think there's other, by turn 7 the game is either going to be won or lost, I think, for a lot of the decks that are in play right now. I don't know that I will play that. I don't see really anything else of interest in that pack. Let's just keep going. So So we've got search your library for 2 creature cards with different names, reveal them and put them into your hand, shuffle your library. Pretty good, pretty late game if you need something to finish off your opponent. Otherwise I don't see any other use really for that. Alright, what do we got? Temple of Silence. Here's another one of those new lands. We've got a new elemental. When you enter the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on another elemental creature you control. This is going to pair really well with that 2-drop red. Whenever another creature you control dies, you gain 1 life. So you have to sacrifice them at the end when you bring them back. So that's life draw. And if it was an elemental, well, I guess you'd be getting rid of him. So that doesn't really count towards you, although you're going to be bringing elementals back, so he's going to get bigger too. He will see play. I can guarantee you that elementals are going to be a thing in this pack. I know I'm going to play him. I definitely going to play them.
From the smallest ant to the largest
Cool.
hydra,
Another
nature is
legendary. 2 counters, 2/1/1. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power. So it's pounce essentially. And when you... Oh, okay, so this is interesting. So you can choose a card outside of the game that you don't play in your deck and put it into your hand. Cool. I mean, I guess I can see why that would be useful. I think her +1 ability is going to get a lot of use, and I think her -3 is going to get a lot of use. I don't really see where the -5 would strategize in all that much unless you have a really expensive card that you don't want to be drawing. I guess. I'm not sure. To be honest, I don't play much green either, so. Alright, we got 3 of these. I guess I'm being told that I need to be playing blue-green. So Blood-Soaked Altar is an expensive, very expensive artifact. Again, I feel like in most cases, by the time you've got 6 mana down, you either have other options to play or the game is going to be pretty near to over and you don't really want to be paying 2 life. But then again, that 5/5 demon token with flying is going to be handy. So I'll wait and see. I think that'll see a lot of play in some of the different types. Ooh, okay. Tombbound Lich is one that I've been looking for actually quite a bit. I really like this card. Death Touch Lifelink, and he deals combat damage to a player. Draw a card, then discard a card. There's a lot going on. It's only 3. It's a 1/3 with Death Touch, so he's dangerous right off the bat to anything on the field. You know, you can chump block a 12/12, and it will still kill them for 3 mana. So it's a removal plus a draw. You can discard, but you'll probably have something you don't want to be playing anyway. Totally going to run him in my blue-black. Mask of Immolation, elemental creature token, sacrifice to deal damage. That's pretty cool, I guess. It'll kind of sit there unless you've got some spare mana. Whenever a creature you control dies, gain 1 life and draw a card. Oh, that's pretty good. That's another one of those late game, but I can see this being a little bit more useful than the other one. Maybe. Green, you can ramp into it, so it'll probably see a little bit more play because it's so expensive. I'll take the rare wild cards any day. Brought back 2 permanent cards in your graveyard that were put there from the battlefield this turn. Return to the battlefield tapped. It's pretty good. For 2 white mana, you can essentially trick your opponent into thinking that they've gotten rid of or spending spells or using creatures to get rid of a threat on your board that you just bring back. It'll be useful. Plasma Dragon Fires just deals damage. I like the art on this one. Oh, this is kind of interesting. I wonder if this will see play. This shuts down red, right? Those mono aggro red decks. This will help against red blue and blue, black blue. All are going to kind of... This will be difficult for them to get around, I think, especially because a lot of people don't really run enchantment removal, despite the fact that you probably should these days. So once it's down, it'll probably stay there. Choose 2 target players. Each of them searches their library for a card, then shuffles their library and puts that card on top of it. it's cheap, gives you benefit, gives them benefit. It's a give and a take. It's super cheap, so if you have a play that you need, or you've got something that you know will be able to counter whatever they put up there, it's probably worth playing. Oh, cool. Another Mythic rare. So he's blue, red, white, flying bird wizard. It's kind of cool. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. Sacrifice a spirit, add red. He's pretty specific. I can't think of what the archetype for blue, red, and white would be. I know blue, red, and white, red, and white, blue. I guess white, blue are wizards. I can see this being... You can run a dual land and probably get him out okay. 3/3 for flying for 4 plus these abilities. I think he's good. He's definitely good. I mean, you wouldn't be a Mythic rare if you weren't good. Another Bloodsoaked Altar. Another Scryland. It's pretty good. The white-red is actually one that I want, because I've been playing white-red quite a bit, actually. There's a video of the deck that I've been playing. It's pretty nasty. I'm sure you've played against it, but if you ever want to check that out, you can look at my channel. Wow, Elephant Clerk. When he enters the battlefield, you may have your life total become the total toughness of creatures you control. That's cool, I guess. 6 mana. By the time you've got 6 mana, you've got a lot on the field. You can only do it when he enters. So he's kind of a rescue card in that if you're getting low, if you're at 5, 6 life, there's a good chance that... I mean, 6 life, you can double that because he's going to add 6 to it right off the bat. And then if you have a lot of life, because white has been life gain, you can make him super nasty. So he's going to be useful. I think you'll see that in the field. Easy to snipe. He's not a legendary. There's nothing really special about him. So even like a 2-cost cast down will get rid of him, although you can't stop the life gain. But you can counter him, and then there's nothing there to him. I like how this card looks. It's kind of cute. Oh, all right, cool. He's just like a replicator type of thing. It's pretty cool. Ah, all right. So here's one of the Chandras. This is the rare one. So there's a Mythic rare on top of her. I believe there's a common, and then I think there's one in the Planeswalker decks that you can get. Free loyalty counters, free elementals, and then spells from your graveyard. Probably worth running, especially if you're running elementals, right? Like you can get 2 1/1 elemental creature tokens with haste that you then sacrifice. That green card, when elementals are put into the graveyard from the field, he gets 2 1/1 counters, right? So there's this cycle, and you get 2 of them each turn. It's pretty good. All right, another bird wizard. Oh, see, I'm bummed about that. I wish I had gotten a different one. I don't think I'll play him, to be honest. Famous last words. Mystic Forge. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. That should sound familiar to people. You may cast the top card of your library if it's an artifact card or a colorless non-land card. Pay 1. Exile the top card of your library. Interesting. So if you're playing a colorless deck, it's pretty good. Maybe artifacts will come back. It definitely seems like there's been some artifact creatures that are useful. Here's another Yark. 2 more. Golos. Tireless Pilgrim. Legendary artifact creature. Looks weird. When he enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a land card. Put that card onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. Exile the top 3 cards of your library. You may play them this turn without paying their mana cost. Interesting. right off the bat, his enter the field thing is valuable, right? Because you can pick anything. A land card, I suppose. But we just opened a land card. I think it was a land card that essentially allows you to look at the top of your deck. Maybe it wasn't a land card, but I digress. Free land is always great. You've already paid 5 for Golos, so you need 3 more. They all have to be one of every color, which is kind of annoying. But you can get 3 free spells a turn for just having them on the field. I would look into artifact creatures, I think, in this set. These I'm going to play without a doubt. There's a I think it's not a Johnny's Pride Mate, but there's a card where 4/4 for 4 mana. When you attack, you get 2 1/1 white life gain tokens. This is 2, and you get 2 soldier creature tokens that are attacked and tapping. Worth it. Definitely worth it. Definitely worth it. Definitely worth it. I'm going to slide them right into my red-white aggro deck, and it's going to get nasty. So there you have it. 30 packs. Wow, that's a lot of them. We did get quite a few interesting rares to play with. I'm going to try to build an elemental deck. I think once the meta has shaken out a little bit more, it'll be clear what's valuable. So look for that in a couple weeks. If you have interest in that, I at least do. So there you have it. It's 30 packs. Don't forget to check out the Wikipedia site that has all of the information about the set in there. You want to know what you're looking for when you start to open packs, so you know if you got something good or something that fits your play style. So there you have it. I appreciate you watching. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed the video, like it, and let me know if you have any thoughts about the set in the comment section below. Thanks, guys.